Welcome back. Now, the Department of Social Development has announced the Gender-Based Violence Command Center is back online. These services were halted for 5 months as there were contractual challenges with a service provider. The service itself does provide 24-hour immediate care, support, as well as counselling to victims of violence. Joining us now is Bathembu Futshane, who is the Acting Chief Director for Communications at the Department of Social Development. Bathembu, thank you so much for the time. Appreciate it then this afternoon for joining us here on Newsfeed PM. Just if I could start off with the basics here with regards to this service. Have the contractual challenges been cleared, especially for good? Because the service ultimately needs to run all the time and not have that 5-month break.
Good afternoon, Arabida, to your team and the audience that's watching the show. Yes, they have, in the sense that what we have done is that we have terminated the initial contract that we had with the service provider that was giving us problems. And we've appointed a new one, which has now taken up the service fully. And that's the one that came online on Thursday this week. So we've got a contract with that service provider now. And so to the extent that they are providing the service, those issues are now behind us.
Are you able to detail any further who exactly these service providers are, for one, and the second part then, whether they will have sufficient capacity to offer the kind of services that are needed for something like this, particularly in the form of immediate care and perhaps even emergency response?
Look, I can detail the one that we've appointed, which is Vodacom, together with its partners. I would request that maybe for out of respect for the other service provider, because we know that despite the termination, they still intend to contest some of the termination. So some of the matters are still sub judice. But we're working with Vodacom. Vodacom we are satisfied that they have the capability that we need to deliver the service. If I can maybe just give a brief background. We've appointed them in the region of about 3 weeks to a month ago. So it's really been a very, very short period. But in that 3-week to 4-week period, they've delivered to us a service that service provider could not deliver to us in the past 18 months, which is testament to the capacity that they have to deliver this service for us that we need. Over and above that, Vodacom provides the technical aspects of the command center, which means the call center, its calling systems, its access systems, and all of those things that make the command center work. DST then provides social workers that are working in the command center, who are providing the professional service that is needed by the victims or by anyone who's reporting a case of GBV. And we've got 48 social workers that are employed by the command center, working on a shift rotation system. So at all times, we always have sufficient capacity to be able to deliver the service that we need to deliver.
Yeah, but Bathembu, one of the questions might be whether this service would be able to offer sufficient emergency response, though, and whether that means that Vodacom and the likes would then be working with emergency personnel and then, of course, police as well.
So Vodacom does not interact directly with anyone. They're just providing the facility, as it were. But we have an agreement with the SAPS that allows us to call 10111 directly in cases of emergency. I'll make, for an example, we received a case yesterday where we had already had a victim that is hospitalized. I cannot detail what the ins and outs of the case are. But in responding to that case, we already had activated 10111, and the relevant police station within that district will also be taking a J88 form to ensure that that victim is able to complete that form so that the process of prosecuting or of investigating what happened already commences. And so that's just one example of the relationship that we have with the SAPS. But where we are right now is that we only have a call-through service. So in other words, we can only call 10111 directly. But what we are working towards in the longer term is to have an automated call-in integrated between the SAPS and the Gender-Based Violence Command Center, so that whenever a call comes through to us, we can then automatically relay that call to 10111 so that there is no delay between the two systems. And that's part of what we are focused on working on in the first quarter of next year going forward.
At the same time, then, one might ask other questions as to, if this is indeed nationwide and from anywhere in the country you can make a phone call to this gender-based violence command center line. And then if you could please just detail as well the number that people can call, just so that we're able to give that to them, give it to them live right now, because it has been that 5-month sabbatical, of course.
Yeah. So yes, it's definitely a national line. We have got it situated in Pretoria, but it responds to anybody, anywhere in the country. It's a toll-free line, which means that those that are calling us on landlines are calling us completely free of charge, and those that are calling us on cell phones are calling us at the cost rate of the call, instead of the normal standard call that we're calling, that you make a call on for your cell phone calls. But of importance, maybe I need to say, the number is 0800 428 428, 0800 428 428. And the best way to remember it is that if you look on your dial, whether you're looking at your cell phone or your landline, it's 0800 stop GBV. If you just follow that, the letters on the phone, 0800 stop GBV, it reads out as 0800 428 428. So that's a way that one can remember the number in case that one could, forget.
All right, I'm actually just looking at the number now myself. So 0800 428 428 or 0800 stop GBV. That correct? Yes. All right, fantastic. I think that would definitely be ultimately very necessary. Bathembu, just as a final question then, I suppose continued support coming through from the Department of Social Development will probably be very important with regards to this. Will there be a continued relay of data, of information of all these cases perhaps then as well, which then offers legal representation perhaps at a later stage? Could it be used in that sense as well for later, if there's any legal ramifications for a case in future?
Absolutely. So the way that the command center works is that we've got social workers across the country in each of the provinces and in each of the wards and the districts and municipalities, etc. And when the call comes in to us, the first thing we do is to deliver or provide trauma counseling telephonically. The second thing we do is that we then relay that call to the social work office that is in the district where the incident has occurred. Social workers then dispatched to go and attend to the victim. And they then build a file of the entire case. And that file the social worker is building is a file that we can then take in the event that there's prosecution of the case and it proceeds in the prosecution process. That file, together with the social worker concerned providing a witness statement, can then be used to assist whatever investigation or whatever prosecution is required. But over and above that, one of the things that they can do, social workers, that they can also refer victims to places of safety or to Duzela care centers. And whatever file or record is then developed or drafted while they are in that place of safety, that also forms part of the overall record of the case. And all of that information then also goes into the prosecution or investigation of the case.
Yeah, very important information and data here being put forward. Bathembu, thank you so much for the time. Really appreciate you joining us then as well. Just to repeat that number, it is on your screen then. That's, of course, for the Gender-Based Violence Command Center, continuing to, of course, be very important as we've just been speaking about gender-based violence. Just rearing its ugly head continuously then in this country, unfortunately. And that is the command center line that you can then call then, according to Bathembu Futshane, which is 0800 428 428. Bathembu Futshane is the acting chief director for communications at the Department of Social Development.